guess what? Not knowing who's playing probably is an advantage for me, because when I do know, I think I know more than I do know, and that's how I lose. So I was excited to wager on a real football game. I was excited to see Vic Fangio out there. I was excited to see Matt Schaub. I cannot believe Matt Schaub is still in the NFL. That's one of those inception totems. It feels good to know that there's still Matt Schaub out there somewhere, and we could see Matt Schaub in a real live NFL game during the regular season at some point. That I go to sleep, and I just feel a little bit safer in the world knowing that Matt Schaub is still out there.
And it's amazing. 10 years ago, Matt Schaub had nearly 4,800 passing yards, and he was the MVP of the Pro Bowl that they played in Miami. And he's still hanging around. He's still cashing NFL checks. And what you need to know today does begin in Canton, the epicenter of the NFL, the cradle of the NFL from 100 years ago, almost exactly 100 years ago as of next September. The Broncos won the game. They covered 14-10 with a late touchdown pass. Drew Lock was really the story for the Broncos, though. This is the guy they took 42nd overall pick in the draft, second rounder. Vic Fangio said of Locke's performance, I was hoping for more, but I'm not surprised. He's still got a lot of work to do. I thought his accuracy wasn't clean all the time, along with his reads, but that's to be expected. We've got 4 more games, and we've got to get him ready, more ready than he is right now. Now, look, the guy's only been in NFL training camp for 2 weeks, and I don't know what to expect out of Drew Lock, but okay, Kevin Hogan was the starter last night, and Lock came in after that, and Lock is a work in progress. Schaub, who's been around forever, looked horrible last night. It takes time to get your timing down. It takes time to get comfortable with everything that's going on around you. I'm not ready to say that Lock is even remotely close to a bust just because he did not look good last night.
No, I'm not ready to do that as well. And you're right, the timing in that first preseason game is always a little funky. But what we're doing right now and what the rest of the country is doing right now, talking about Drew Lock, that comes with the territory, because what Drew Lock has on his back and the pressure that he has is John Elway's future with the Broncos. It's Vic Fangio's future with the Broncos. So when you pick a quarterback that high, he becomes the guy that everyone talks about. Everyone's going to dissect every single piece of film that they see, whether it be the first preseason, regular season, however it goes. He has a lot of pressure on him, and there are people who have their jobs basically on the line for Drew Lock and what happens with him. Mike, I can't believe, though, we started with Lock. We talked a little bit about Matt Schaub. How have you not mentioned the Mike Florio rule? We finally got to see the Mike Florio rule in action.
Don't call it my rule.
It is the Mike Florio rule. They named the rule after you. It is the pass interference rule.
What I wanted.
We saw the first pass interference review. The game slowed down, and Mike Florio sat there saying, finally, my rule has been enacted.
This is not my rule, is the sky judge. That's my rule. That's what I want. And I'm not concerned about the red flag coming out when pass interference is called, because I think it's going to be very, very rare that Al Riveron sees nothing to suggest that there may have been pass interference. Remember, in that setting, you've got to have clear and obvious evidence that there was no significant hindrance of the receiver by the player who is called for pass interference. I'm more concerned about the situations where it's not called on the field and the red flag is thrown or the replay challenge is automatically activated. Will Al Riveron go frame by frame slow motion and call for a flag when there shouldn't be one? That's what I'm concerned about. And I never wanted replay review of pass interference. I want a sky judge who can talk to the referee in real time, another member of the crew who can say, hey, we missed something there, throw a flag. Not this slow the game down, bog the game down, and let one person in New York look at it in super slow motion and try to second guess what they saw on the field. So don't put that on me.
You are so humble to I mean, it is your rule, and you're so humble to sit here and tell us that it's not the Mike Florio rule. So I'll play along and I'll say it's not the Mike Florio rule, wink.
Let me make one last point before we move on, because, it's very easy to downplay anything that happens in the Hall of Fame game. It's just one game. It's a bunch of guys who aren't going to be in the NFL a month from now. But remember this, 19 years ago, it was 49ers, Patriots in the Hall of Fame game. Giovanni Carmazzi had been picked that year by the 49ers in round 3, who passed on Tom Brady, who was playing in that same game. Steve Mariucci, coach of the 49ers at the time, has since said that that one game ruined Carmazzi. Hall of Fame game 2000, Carmazzi ruined. Tom Brady gets his first action for a career that becomes the greatest quarterback of all time. How'd you like that pool from 19 years ago?
I believe that stuff. I really do think that these preseason games, while we might make fun of them and say, well, they don't really need it, and the way that they have been handled by the teams has changed so much in the last 10 years, where you remember when players just played more. Now it feels like you don't see the starters in the first week of the preseason. You might see them for one drive and then maybe a quarter or half in the third game. So they're basically not even playing a full game at this point, the true starters. So it has changed, but when you get guys out there and they get their first action of that speed and those helmets, it can probably ruin some guys, and they get to that next leap and they say, you know what, maybe I don't belong.